Hey, Diana, did you know that overcoming your fears can actually make you money?
Mark, you said something smart.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome.
Ladies and gentlemen, jurists and just curious, welcome to the Successful Barrister Podcast. Here you'll learn about marketing, management, and life skills for lawyers that probably won't get you disbarred. Hosted by Marc Whitehead, a seasoned lawyer who remembers when fax machines were cutting edge, and Diana Berry, attorney, COO, and the brains behind the scenes. Together, they are the legal world's most dynamic duo since statutes met regulations. So if you're looking to build a practice, not a prison, you're in the right place. Welcome to the Successful Barrister, where legal legends are made.
And welcome to the Successful Barrister Podcast. This is Marc Whitehead, your host. And welcome to the podcast for lawyers regarding marketing, management, and life skills that probably won't get you disbarred. I'm here along with my co-host and COO and right hand, Diana Berry. Hey, Diana, what's going on?
Hey, Mark. Happy Veterans Day.
Happy Veterans Day to you. It is 11/11.
Yep. Thank you to all those that have served. We appreciate it.
Yes, we do. We do.
So what are we talking about today?
So today we're going to talk about our fears, specifically as law firm owners, my particular fear of hiring all-star attorneys. We've talked about this on this podcast many times before that, in order to really grow a business, you've got to be able to scale it, which means you need to hire people. And people includes hiring some all-star attorneys to come in and help you expand, help you scale, help you dominate your world, whatever your world looks like to you. The problem that I have noticed over the years, coaching other lawyers, talking with lawyers, is that lawyers have this fear of bringing in other all-star attorneys. Most law firm owners are alpha dogs. They're the ones that shine. They're the ones that all the marketing is built around. They're the ones...
Their name.
That's their name on the door.
Uh-huh.
When you talk about bringing in another powerhouse attorney, it strikes fear into these lawyers, and part of it is ego. If you're the alpha dog, I don't want to share the spotlight with anybody. But part of the fears, are based in legitimate concerns. And I think, the first thing is you kind of have to get past that ego part because, you can't scale yourself. There is a max to what you as the alpha dog, as the law firm leader, the owner can do. You're going to have to bring in talented people if you ever want to grow the practice beyond just, a solo shingle out there.
Yeah, and I think that some of the first step's got to identity, right? Like if your identity is the rainmaker of the firm, you have to find another identity to replace that as, like, for example, you identify very readily as a business owner, a successful business owner. And I think that that's helped you we now have many rainmakers and successful all-star attorneys for any one of them listening.
Yes. And we know our lawyers listen to this. So yes, we love you all.
And we do have many all-star attorneys in the firm.
So I've been doing this for 30 some years. And, probably for the first 10, 12, 15 years, I was the alpha dog. I was the only one trying lawsuits. I was the only one doing the depositions. I was the only one doing the mediations. Well, guess what I was? I was a choke point.
Yep.
And I couldn't grow. And it wasn't until that I realized that I was a business owner and I needed to run my business like a business, that I realized that the only way to grow that business was to bring in other all-star attorneys who could get out there and shine in their own light, develop their own business.
And reflect well on you.
And reflect well on the firm as a whole.
Really. And your ability to attract that type of talent, honestly, it speaks volumes.
Right. So, that was the first thing, was getting past that mental roadblock. But then there are some legitimate reasons that people hesitate on bringing in other all-star attorneys. And I'm going to go through three of them real quickly. Before we take a break, and we come back from the break, we'll kind of go into each one of those and figure out how to address each one of those fears.
Awesome.
So the first one obviously is the cost, financial. The second one is the fear that you spend all your time with this person, training this person up, and then, they leave and take their talents elsewhere. And the third one, and I think this is the real bugaboo one, is people have this fear that if they bring in some all-stars, these all-stars will ultimately leave and take your clients, maybe even take your staff.
Right.
And while all of those have some merit, you should think about these things. I think all of these can be addressed
And worked around.
So when we get back from the break, we will talk about Marc's strategies to dealing with those fears.
This podcast is sponsored by Marc Whitehead Associates, a national disability benefits law firm. Marc Whitehead runs a firm of over 60 dedicated people whose mission is to make a difference in the lives of our injured and disabled clients. Marc represents disabled claimants in Social Security disability, private disability insurance, and veterans disability claims in all 50 states. Marc Whitehead is double board certified in both Social Security disability law and personal injury trial law. Marc has litigated disability cases in over 40 states and counting and can help your clients too. Stop throwing your phone calls away. Call Marc Whitehead at 701-VIP-LEAD. That's 701-VIP-LEAD. Or visit our website at disabilitydenials.com. Referral fees are paid in all jurisdictions where it is permitted. Refer us your disability cases today and know that your clients will be in good hands.
Funny side note, so we had to record that opening section 3 times because of technical difficulties.
Yeah, Jim.
So
We're going onward and upward.
we're sitting here winded because we've had to talk so much.
It's all right, though. We are very lucky to have our producer.
We're very, very lucky.
Things happen.
So anyway, so we were talking about fear. Specifically the fear of bringing in an all-star attorney. Let's define that a little bit because that can mean a lot of different things to a lot of different people. So to me, an all-star attorney is an attorney that you have the confidence and faith in that they can be an income producer independently of you. In other words, they can handle their own caseload, they can develop their own caseload, they can manage their own people, they can manage their own team. As opposed to, say, you bring in a staff attorney who's going to assist you in drafting discovery, assist you in summarizing your depositions, it's just basically assist you in research and writing, but basically you yourself are still the main revenue producer. So when I talk about an all-star attorney, in my mind, what I'm talking about is that independent stream of income that you're setting up under your banner. In our case, Brittany runs the insurance department. She has, basically full autonomy over there. She develops business, she handles the business, she runs a team, she manages that entire team. She's an all-star. Anthony runs SSD. Selena runs the VA department. They all have their own basic businesses within a business. And that's what I mean by creating an all-star. Somebody that is an independent business.
And a leader. It sounds like some of those things you're attributing are not just their ability to produce revenue for you, but to also, when you said manage a team, and they're leaders within your firm.
The word I was looking for was profit center. I kind of stalled out right there just a minute ago because I kept thinking there's a word that Steve Riley uses all the time, and it's profit center. These people have become independent profit centers.
They are. And we talk a lot about their numbers. Every year about this time, we start looking at their ROI, their revenue to labor. And they are very familiar with very business terms, their budget, and they are expected to treat their individual departments as businesses.
Right.
And so you had
business is designed to make a profit for me.
Exactly. And so you had to overcome these fears specific to you, these 3?
Well, so I think the fear is that, that they get so independent from me that, quite frankly, that, they could spin off on their own if they wanted
could literally take your department and see it.
Right.
Yeah.
So there is an element of trust that has to go into that, of creating these profit centers and putting so much time, energy, and effort into developing these lawyers and to give them the resources and the staff, and whatever it is they need. Like, you got to run with this.
Yeah, exactly. So what's your first fear that you want to talk about today?
So the first fear I think that business owners have before they, talk about hiring, an all-star attorney is these people are going to cost some money.
Yes.
Yes, they will cost some money. But the whole goal is that they need to make you your money. Again, they need to be profit centers. I mean, the rule of thumb is that their labor cost, should make you 3x of what they cost. So if you're just talking about one attorney, let's say if you're paying an attorney, I'm just going to use a random number that probably is not really realistic, but let's say you're paying this attorney $50,000 a year, which I don't know where you could find one like that, but I'm going to use a low number just for funsies. Then that attorney should be able to generate $150,000 a year in revenue. Okay. All right, let's expand that out. Let's say that this attorney builds a team. So now you have the attorney salary, you have a paralegal, you have a legal assistant, you might have a medical record specialist, you might have somebody else there. Now this attorney is now running a team of 5 people. So let's say this team of 5 people is costing you $250,000 a year. Well, then you would expect a revenue number somewhere around $750,000. That's the 3x rule. So
That's
if you
revenue to labor ratio.
the revenue to labor ratio that we use extensively, and this is a number that I've heard on many different, it's kind of the standard. It is kind of the gold standard. If you can get 4x, all the better. But 3x is sort of the number that you're looking for. So I think the first thing you have to do here is you have to change your mindset. You're not looking at this all-star attorney as a cost. You're looking at this as an investment. You're investing money and you expect to get a certain return from that investment. And not only are you investing your money, but you're going to invest your time, you're going to invest your resources, you're going to invest some training. So you look at all of this as an investment. Would you like to get 3x your money in stock market? You damn right you would. That'd be a no-brainer. We'd all be throwing money at it if we knew we had that. So why wouldn't you do the same, in developing an all-star team led by an all-star attorney?
So is there a universal rule of thumb for length of time then? Obviously, I'll take Selena as our one of our newer attorneys. You hired her first. She worked with you as a law clerk, and then you hired her right after she passed the bar. So obviously she did not generate 3x her first year. Is there a rule of thumb on how long it is before someone can generate that 3x?
I would say within a year or two.
Okay. No year.
It sort of depends. Now, if you have excess business that you can push in their direction, I would say they probably should be doing 3x within a year or so because they don't have to develop their own business.
Right.
So now your job is just to train them up and get them running.
And it depends on the complexity of the business model, right? So Selena was doing very well with Social Security hearings, whereas some of our more complex subjects.
And it also depends on whether you're a cash fee for service business or whether you're a contingency fee, because obviously we're sitting waiting forever on contingency fee cases to get paid. So that can affect that timeline as well. So you sometimes have to actually project it out. She's going to be able to handle 30 litigation cases this next year, even though she's maybe a first-year attorney. We may not collect on very many of those cases during the first 12 months, but we at least know they have value and they're coming. So there's different methodologies, inventory valuations, things like that you can use to kind of project revenue. But I would say a year or two to answer your question. What's the timeline? Again, it's an investment. You have to water that seed and watch it grow.
So then once you water your seed, then that leads us kind of to your second fear, right?
Right. So the second fear is that you're going to spend all of this time and effort training this person up, and then they're going to leave. Legitimate fear. Not saying it's not a legitimate fear. But what's the alternative? The alternative is to not train them and they stay.
Yep.
That's not a good idea either.
Yep.
So I think it goes back to a couple of things to get people to want to stay with you. It all goes back to what sort of culture are you developing in your firm? What's your work environment? Are you paying reasonable wages? Are you cutting them in on a share of their revenue production? Are you giving them origination bonuses on work that they actually originate? I mean, that's the biggest reason that lawyers leave is, well, why do I need to work for this pittance of a salary when I can go out and hang my own shingle and get paid all the money?
Yep, and keep more of what I'm bringing, or
Right.
more what I'm selling.
Which was a subject for another podcast, because that's an extremely naive way to think, because I've seen more lawyers go out and crash and burn doing that than you can shake a stick at. But they still think that. So it's a matter of treating your people fairly. If they originate business, and you should have rules defining what an origination is versus work that the firm provides. But if they actually originate business, you should cut them in fairly handsomely on that piece of revenue, because that's what it's all about, is bringing in business. You should cut them in on revenue, even when the firm provides the business to them. If I provide a case for my attorneys to work on, they still get a cut of it. They also get a nice base salary. That's especially important when lawyers are relatively young, because they can't originate any business on their own yet. Obviously, you want to have great bonuses. Great employee benefits packages. You want to take care of your people, and you want to set, a culture that people want to be a part of. In other words, they want to stay. So we've had lawyers, my two longest tenured lawyers have been here roughly 10, 12 years.
Exactly.
They are now partners in the firm. So, you want to make it inviting for them. You want them to stay.
Yep. So I think what you're talking about is creating a win-win situation for both the all-star rainmaker plus you, right? The business owner.
Yeah.
So it's not, when people think about this kind of, going back to something we talked about last time, a closed mindset of what if I, do all this investment and water my seed and then my seed leaves. That's kind of a closed mindset. And it also creates this either or situation where really it's you're pitting yourself up against your team member.
Right.
And now with all the things that you've talked about, it's more of a relationship. It's a win-win where we're working together, where both of us can be financially, do well financially, and where they can develop their own business and become leaders. All the things really that I have a lot of friends, obviously, from law school, and they don't get those opportunities in law firms.
Right. And I think, so I don't know why, but I've coached lawyers, and I've talked with a lot of lawyers about this. And some lawyers, you can tell the ones with the closed mindset, because they always complain about the bonuses that they pay their attorneys. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, that you should celebrate that. I mean, I am happy to pay out origination bonuses to my attorneys and production bonuses to my attorneys, because that means I make more money.
Mm-hmm. And you're not doing the work.
I'm not doing the work.
Your lifestyle at this point where you are is much more valuable than the production bonus. Is that fair?
Absolutely.
And that's what you created for yourself, is a lifestyle. So with the team of all-stars.
And the flip to them is that they know that they're going to get a solid salary and solid production bonuses. Some attorneys simply are not great at originating. They don't really want to originate business. Mm-hmm. And that's fine too. I will provide them all the work that they need, and it's sort of a win-win for both of us. I have all of this extra work that needs to get done. These particular lawyers they just want to practice law. There are a lot of lawyers out there that don't want to get out there and just civil business.
Paycheck, yeah.
They just want to practice law, mm-hmm. and they're very happy just practicing law. They're very happy when I just hand them cases to work on, and then they go off and work the cases and produce a great result and get paid their production bonus, and they're happy with that. Craig Goldenfarb in Florida told me this once, and he goes, half of my lawyers originate a lot of business, and half of my lawyers don't originate any business.
Oh.
And he goes, I need them both. They are both important to my business structure. So don't overlook the fact that there are some attorneys that just want to come in every day and just do a good job. And that's all they want to do.
And they're all-stars too.
There are all-stars. They're just production all-stars.
Mm-hmm.
They want to work and work and work, and you need those workhorses as well. You also need the rainmakers. So I'm not saying you don't need both, but a good mix of the two actually works out quite well.
They're very healthy.
Yeah. So the third one, and I think this is the biggest one that lawyers have.
Biggest fear?
The biggest fear they have is that, their lawyers will leave and take business from them, take clients, which I've seen, and or take staff with them, which I've seen. Just look within the last 2 or 3 years, I've seen several lawsuits that have gone on file right here in Harris County, Texas, where law firms are suing associates or suing partners or whatever for doing nefarious things about stealing clients. It's not an unfounded fear.
We're not going to talk. I mean, it happens everywhere, not just
It
in
happens.
I know exactly what you're talking about. So we're going to move on from that. It really does happen. So so let's address the fear. It is real.
So again, this podcast goes out nationwide. So I know this is sort of state by state a little bit, but here's kind of the things that we do. So all of our attorneys sign an employment agreement, where they agree not to steal our staff under certain rules. They also agree that if they leave and they take clients, that we've pre-agreed to a fee split.
Right.
Okay. These are all valid, to my knowledge anyway, in Texas. Now, one thing we cannot do is that we cannot do a non-compete with them. In other words, I can't tell them you can't take any cases if you're here, because that's not my choice and it's not their choice. It's the client's choice. The client always has a choice about if the lawyer's leaving the firm, if they want to stay with that lawyer, if they want to stay with the firm. So there are limitations there, but you can prearrange the fee split as long as it's reasonable. And that is one way to protect yourself. All of our lawyers know this. They've all agreed to it. I have had lawyers leave before and want to take business. Unfortunately, we've always had a good relationship, and they'll just say, I'm leaving. I would like to take X number of cases with me. And, we have an agreement in place already. And I'm like, if the client is okay with that, that's fine. What I found is only about half of the clients that they wanted to take actually wanted to go with them. The rest wanted to stay with us, but it was okay. And she worked the files that she did take, and she paid me my split when it was done. And I'm like, well, okay, that was easy, no big deal. And we're still friends today. And that's somebody that does it the right way. So if you set it up in such a way that you know what to expect, it's in a written agreement ahead of time. If you contemplate this ahead of time, then there's nothing to argue about. You already have a written agreement in place. And it makes it much easier and less painful. I will say I'm not quite sure that you can actually keep them from taking staff legally. I mean,
not in tech, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it is written in our agreement, but I don't think it's terribly enforceable.
Well, non-solicitation?
The non-solicitation of your employees, because it is a right to work state. But it's a good enough, if you put it in there, it makes people think twice about it. But the whole point is that you can plan for this sort of thing and make it as painless as possible if it does happen. But of course, I go back to solution number 2, which is make your culture in such a way that this happens very rarely, if at all.
Yeah. No, completely agree. And I think part of your thing about the agreement and doing that at the very beginning, well, it's one of the first agreements that they sign when we bring on a new attorney. It's without all the emotion, right? So when people leave, it is a very high emotion situation. And so now you're looking at it with fresh eyes for both of you. And so you're not having to have these types of negotiations when, everything's already distraught.
And I guess the point that I try to make to people is every relationship is going to end. Everyone.
We talked about necessary endings a while
Yes,
back, yeah.
and it's just by virtue of life. I mean, everybody that works at this law firm right now will someday not work for this law firm, including you, including me. That may be we voluntarily leave, we may be asked to leave. We may go out, horizontally in a coffin. But eventually we will all be somewhere else. So if you pre-plan the exit, it can be very, very easy. It can be very painless. If you don't pre-plan the exit, then it can get really messy. So I think that's the point that I try to preach, particularly to my coaching clients, is pre-plan the exit, because it's going to happen. Sooner or later, it's going to happen.
Well, I think that that's a great way to talk about your fears, right? If you think about how you want it to end and how it can end, that kind of allays some of the fear that you might have about even hiring an all-star rainmaker.
All right, we're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, I'm going to talk about the final solution, as I say, which is developing a partnership track for your all-star attorneys and whether or not a particular candidate might fit in that track. I'm Marc Whitehead, a lawyer, entrepreneur, and business coach. Thanks so much for tuning into the Successful Barrister podcast. We have a blast creating it, and I hope you find it helpful. If our chats have sparked your interest, I'd love to hear from you. Shoot me an email at marc@marcwhitehead.com. That's Marc spelled with a C. And join the Successful Barrister newsletter. Even better, let's hop on a call. I'd love to chat about how we can collaborate, share ideas, or just catch up. All right, so I teased it at the end of the last segment. I wanted to talk about partnership track and what that can look like, when you should do it, maybe when you shouldn't do it,
Yeah.
Um,
So what's your current structure, Marc?
So our current structure, and again, this is a relatively new thing for us. We have only been developing our partnership track over the last 2 or 3 years. So we have what we call a non-equity partnership track, which means that in the way we have it structured is for attorneys that have been here at least for 7 years and have been, I would say, in a managerial capacity and have exhibited a whole list of traits that we look for that are in writing, that can originate business, and that's the key. They have to be able to originate business. We have a non-equity partnership track, and we have 2 non-equity partners right now. And the benefit of that is they get a bigger piece of the pie.
A bigger production bonus.
They get a bigger production bonus, plus they get their origination bonuses.
Which are consistent through the firm.
Yes.
Just for any other lawyers listening that
Right.
might want to mimic a similar strategy.
Right. They also get some, a lot of other perks and privileges. Now, they don't have any ownership interest in the firm. That is different. Equity is different. But the reason I like this model is, again, when you have these all-star attorneys, you want to keep them. You want to keep them happy. And to give them that status at partnership level, to give them that production piece, to give them that origination piece, to give them that leadership piece in the firm, to basically let them go out and shine independently of me, is a big deal.
It keeps them happy too.
It
right?
makes
At
them
that level.
happy. It provides them, with the financial needs that they have. It provides them with, helps with the esteem issues. It makes them feel as part of the firm. It makes them feel as a part of the leadership structure of the firm. They're invested in the firm.
Which again keeps them staying and here.
Right. Exactly. Keeps them staying. You want to keep them happy. You want to keep them productive. And then somewhere down the road, and we haven't quite got there yet, we're still exploring ways of actually maybe doing equity partnerships, because I'm not going to be around forever.
Just 100 and what'd you say?
125. I plan on living to be 125. I don't plan on working till 125.
Oh, okay.
Okay. But I plan on being around that long. So at some point you have to think about that. You're trying to build a law firm that is worth something, that has some value.
Succession planning.
A succession plan. In a perfect world, everybody could buy a law firm, and the world would be your market, and I could just sell this law firm to Elon Musk or whoever I could talk into buying it for some outrageous amount. The reality is that's not how it really works.
Right.
So the reality is most law firm transfers, most owners who can actually get the equity out of their business, when they want to check out, it's basically an internal sale, which basically means finding internal partners that can buy into the firm over time. Now, equity always costs money. Equity is not free. You don't give your equity away. That people have to pay for that, but you have to make it attractive that they want to pay for it and they want to be a part of it.
And so the non-equity was kind of not a stopgap, but it allows you to kind of tier your equity, because this wasn't something that you would consider, I think, when we first discussed this, when I was during some of maybe not my initial hiring process, but I was learning the ownership structure. You're 100% owner, essentially. You're the only equity partner, and it wasn't anything on your radar. So it's allowed you to also kind of change your methodology and your thinking of retirement, if you will. Air
Right.
quotes there.
Air quotes, retirement. And the other thing is, when you build something, you want to see it continue. It's kind of your child. It's your baby.
Legacy.
It's my legacy. So I would like the firm to continue beyond me. It may not have my name on it. My ego's not that big, but I would like to see what we have built be transferred to the next generation at some point. Now, I'm not ready to check out yet.
Let's be clear.
Real clear on this.
Let's repeat that one more time. Mark's not going anywhere. So the non-equity, and I've read in some of the legal blogs that that's actually a very popular thing, not only in small firms, which makes it more sense where there's one owner, but in big law, that they've developed this non-equity track because just financial reasons. You can't have 100 new equity partners every year, but you want to keep your people.
Right.
And so this non-equity track of counsel track, all of these different tracks within big law, they've tried to figure out ways to keep their people. And this is what we're talking about today.
I will be the first to say I've never understood big law. I can't figure out how they do what they do. I know friends who used to be in big law and apparently still own some piece of the big law, even though they worked there in years. I for the life of me, can't understand how that works. They're still part of this something.
Interesting. Well, ownership structures, that's a whole separate podcast, but ownership structures, it's not just for small firm owners to have this non-equity track. And I think it's really cool that you allow your attorneys to do that.
Right. So with that, I think we'll bring this to a close.
Addressing your fears
Addressing your fears.
can make you money.
It can make you money. Not addressing your fears can really hold you back and allow you to become the choke point. And quite frankly, that's what most small business owners end up doing, is the businesses never grow past the capacity of the owner, i.e. the owner stifles the business. So to get beyond that, you've got to get past your fears, and you've got to bring in those other all-stars that can really scale your practice.
And we think we have a bunch of all-stars.
I think we got a bunch of all-stars here.
In case they listen to this.
Okay, with that, we're going to have to bring this episode to a close. So I want to thank everybody for listening to the Successful Barrister podcast, where legal legends are made. I'm Marc.
And I'm Diana.
And together, we're the dynamic duo of law. Remember to rate and review us. If you enjoyed this episode, please share it with your friends. And visit us at successfulbarrister.com. And be sure to visit our sponsor, Marc Whitehead Associates, a national disability law firm, at disabilitydenials.com. Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.